Warning: this program may contain explicit language that may be considered offensive or inappropriate to children and some adults.
The following content is intended for mature audiences only.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Talk It Out, where we talk it out. So my name is Ricky Z. I'll be your host for tonight, and today's topic is what is rape culture. Alright, so just so you guys know, Talk It Out is a place where people of opposing views can get together and have a healthy and productive dialogue in a respectful way. Keeping in mind that it's not always about proving who's right and who's wrong. Sometimes it's simply about listening and being heard. Alright, so before we get into introducing our panelists, I want you guys to make sure you like and subscribe, share this stream to all your family and friends. If you haven't yet, go make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Whoa Nelly Media. If you haven't subscribed to our sister podcast, Geeking Out, make sure you subscribe to Geeking Out too. And share it and like it and share it with all your friends. We want more people to join the Whoa Nelly Media family. Alright. So let's get started with our returning panelists. So our first one is PJ Vongsavan. So PJ is an associate broker with a local real estate firm. As an Asian American who grew up on the other side of the tracks, PJ understands how important the comfort and security of having a home is and actively engages his community and his industry in promoting fair housing. And for the better part of 2 decades, he and his wife have called Georgia home. All right. So welcome to the show, Mr. PJ.
Hi, Ricky Z. I appreciate you introducing me first, right when our dog started barking.
It's okay. You know,
I don't know what's come up.
That's okay. Life happens. So you can find PJ on Twitter at the PJ Vong, so VONG, and he has a blog, thepjvong.blogspot.com. So, how's it been, PJ?
It's been a crazy couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to getting on this show and kind of hashing out some of these topics tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So let's go to our next returning panelist. So this is Ruth. Ruth is libertarian conservative member of the Facebook group Politically Provoked and is new to online political discussion. She listens to a variety of independent media ranging from Ben Shapiro to Vosh and reads local news articles as well as what Google or Facebook recommends. Welcome to the show, Ruth.
Hello.
Hey, Ruth. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Awesome. How you been?
I've been good. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Look, you got a fan.
Oh, dear. Thanks for the shout out, Big Papa.
It's going to be a fun night. All right.
He's there early.
Yes, he is. So our next returning panelist is Mr. Tristan Daniels. He's been my buddy on Nelly Media and on Sippin' Kiki. So Tristan is a whiskey lover, music connoisseur, Southern gentleman, and Netflix enthusiast. Mr. Tristan Daniels. You're muted, babe.
What's going on, guys? Sorry.
Hey.
How is everybody?
Look, Tristan's been my day one for a minute now, so he's
okay. We is road dogs,
mm-hmm.
and she's now sisters with my cousin. Like, she didn't took my cousin from me, but that's a whole other conversation.
Like, last episode, his cousin Miss Tippy Bell was on an episode, and I've claimed her because she teaches preschool like I do, and all about the social emotional learning. Look. That's my people.
Y'all are very similar, and I've never thought about that, but y'all are very similar people. I don't know why that never crossed my mind.
Okay, so you're doing well, right?
Yes, lovely. Very excited about tonight's discussion.
Yes. All right. So our next returning panelist is Megan Cowgill. Megan is a stay-at-home mom and teaching artist with experience in playwriting, prop design, stage management, and devised performance. She has BFA in acting and directing from Columbus State University. Whoop, whoop, go Cougars. A dinner party enthusiast who loves to make DIY gifts for her friends and family. She recently launched her website, festiveandfrugal.com, and hopes to reach cooks and crafters of all skill levels to build a community in these socially distant times. Check out her step-by-step recipes in the highlights of her Instagram. Christmas Fish, welcome, Miss Megan.
I forgot that was still all my intro.
Yes. Next time we'll change it if we need to. I need to ask that, like, hey, you know, if you guys like have a change in your update, let me know so I can put it in there.
I'm gonna be like 14 podcasts in, and it'll be like, I'm still new to political discussion.
So I need to note to self: change Ruth's bio. Okay. So how's it going, Megan? How's the blog going?
It's going. I need to get back on it and get some more recipes up. I've been experimenting. I just did a cool like green bean chicken thing last night. That was really good. So I'm definitely gonna like I'll like do a recipe and then I'll be like, okay, how did I do that? And I have to like teach myself how to like take measurements on the way because I don't measure when I invent.
You just let the ingredients like guide you.
Yep. It's exactly so. Trying to get it written down has been a challenge I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. I mean, we need to have you back on to do like a online cooking experience.
I do want to do that. I've talked to Liz about it a little bit, so we'll definitely get on that soon.
We're going to have to do that. Oh my goodness, I forgot this one. So I'll do them last. Okay. All right. So, this panelist is not necessarily new. Returning, so he's from the earlier days of Talk It Out before we started doing the live streams. This is Corey Collier. So Corey's an Atlanta native who served in the U.S. Marine Corps for 6 years. He's a licensed barber and real estate agent, but currently is a full-time student studying Harley-Davidson motorcycle mechanics. So welcome to the show, Corey Collier. How you doing, Corey?
I'm doing well.
Great.
How's everybody doing?
Good. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Good. I'm here.
Thank you. Awesome. All right, so our last panelist. Too conservative to be liberal, too liberal to be conservative. Our favorite, Mo Smith Pro.
Hey, what up?
You can find Mo using the same handle, MOESMITHPRO, Mo Smith Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put a $sign in front of it, you can give them a couple of dollars on the Cash App.
Okay, run that Cash App up.
Hey, any donation, big or small.
Right. Give them a couple of dollars on the Cash App.
And just one more time for the podcast. That is $MOESMITHP as in Paul RO. Check it out.
How you been, Mo?
Been blessed and highly favored.
Yes.
Not a shot's complain.
Yes. Good.
If I did, I wouldn't want to give the enemy the authority of the power over my life. Go on.
Hey. Yes. I needed that in my life.
I felt that in my
I needed that word.
Yes.
I needed that word. Thank you.
No, that was all God right there. I wasn't even planning on going that route. Sometimes he just uses you when you need it.
Right.
You know?
Let the Spirit fill you. Okay?
Yes, Lord. Yes.
All right. So before we get into our current events, we're going to take a real short commercial break. See you soon.
You're going to need a babysitter for your own children because, you know, you're going to need lots of energy to pass out virtually to everyone who's looking down in the dumps. You're going to need to know how to work the Zooms and things because, see, I don't know nothing about the Zooms and the computers and all them things and the FaceTimes and the Google Classrooms and things. And I be struggling, so you're going to need to know how to do that, baby. You're going to need to know exactly what you're doing when it comes to that.
All right, that was from one of our sponsors, the Mompreneur Plug. That is college friend Miss Tam Francis. She is an entrepreneur, a mompreneur, if you will. She has some really great content on YouTube. Also, she runs an education center here in Georgia called Center Stage, and they do a lot of great work. They're working with the babies during the summer right now. Bless her.
And that bonnet was everything. Yes.
Yes.
Shout out to the bonnet.
Yes. And if you haven't checked her out yet, please check her out because she's hilarious. She's hilarious. And before we get into our current topic, I got to talk about like my very adult moment today or the last 2 days, please. So, you know, I moved into my first apartment last year ever. I'm 32. I'm moving into my first apartment ever. So, like, yesterday, at some point, I don't know when, my air conditioning went out. It's hot here in Columbus, y'all. Like, my apartment was like 80-something degrees. And I was like, what is going on here? And
your maintenance folks didn't come fix it?
By the time I got home, it was like after 5. So, like, but it's okay. But it's okay because,
that's an emergency.
It was. Luckily, my kids were not here. So, you know, had the fans running. I was okay. Today, like, I was calling, like, you know, no one's in the office. And then I remembered I had a real, like, serious moment where I was like, why didn't I think of this sooner? My apartment complex has a residence portal.
Yeah.
Where I could send in, like, maintenance requests. And I'm like, I could have done this last night. And they would have been here this morning. Or at least that night. Like, and they check it regularly.
And plus, that's considered an emergency.
Yeah.
And pro tip from someone who works in a leasing office, if you do a maintenance request and you mark it as emergency, if it's set up the way ours is set up, it texts the on-call maintenance person, and they're supposed to come out right then. So if your apartment is flooding, or if your AC doesn't work, or your heat doesn't work, or it's anything that's like that, they're supposed to come and fix it, especially when it's hot like it is now. If they don't fix it, call corporate and light their ass up.
The thing is, though, like, I promise you, today when I got home, when I remembered that I had the residence portal, I turned it in. No more than 20 minutes later, I got a knock on the door. So shout out to my apartment complex. Like, if I had done it right, that was a learning moment for me, you know, as someone that, like, you know, living on their own for the first time. Like, hello, there are things to fix the things.
DM me where I want to know what complex you live in. I'm just nosy. Okay. I just want to know, because if it's some... Yeah, I just want to know.
I will.
For industry purposes.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you who it is. Okay, cool. All right, so let's get started on our current events. Okay, so the first one for tonight is Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's very, very north of Atlanta. That's her district.
Okay.
Canton, Georgia. Yeah.
Yes. So, during the earlier part of the pandemic, and, you know, we're shutting places down. Oh my God. And masks were pretty mandatory in most places, places of work. She, as a politician, decided to make the comment that, because she works for the House of Representatives, that the House's mask mandate was like the Holocaust. Now, in my head, those things don't correlate
whatsoever.
You know, like, we hear crazy things all the time. We hear a lot of things, like, being compared to the Holocaust that don't really line up.
Can we be honest?
And it's anti-Semitic when you do the...
It's like, let's be real. Yes, go ahead.
What is I don't understand people's obsession with comparing things to slavery or the Holocaust. Like, those are just two specific things that I don't think there aren't comparisons for. Like, in terms of what they encompass and what they are, you should just let that be what it is. Like, the Holocaust is the Holocaust. There is nothing like it, nothing similar, nothing at all. Unless you want to maybe compare it to another Holocaust of another people or a genocide of another people, maybe. But even then, I
kind of agree. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I kind of like the Japanese internment camps that happen in the U.S.
Right. Like, if you maybe like that's, but even then I'm like, I just think you do better when you just don't compare things to those tragic events. Like, you don't have to. There's enough verbiage and enough things you can compare something to than to use those things.
All right, so let me finish the rest of the statement, and then I'm gonna let Ruth say something too, and then PJ. But so. And also I want to say, like, maybe because these events are so far removed for a lot of people that it's not clicking. But anyway, so, you know, it's been several months. We've been in this pandemic for over a year now. This Monday, she went to the Holocaust Museum for the first time on Monday in Washington, D.C. And, after visiting the museum, she has decided to apologize for those statements. Essentially saying she didn't realize how bad it was. Ruth?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, I guess good that she learned what the Holocaust was. Not sure where she's been, but I would say I generally agree with Tristan that generally comparing things to the Holocaust is not a good idea, with the exception, I would say, being the Uyghur Muslim camps in China, because that's probably the closest you're going to get to like current events. Yeah, obviously
Yes.
other genocides.
Right.
But yeah, I would say in current events, that's probably the only thing that I would say comes close. Masks are annoying, but they are not the Holocaust.
Yes,
Okay,
Corey.
so real quick, what did she actually say? It says, Marjorie Taylor Greene apologized for Holocaust statements.
So she had compared having to wear a mask at work as being in the Holocaust. So
I'm gonna find the specific verbiage real quick. Y'all
go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I got a link for that. Let me see.
And I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.
But
that's
okay. I got it. I found it.
Okay, go ahead.
She said,
go for my ad blockers. Yeah.
She said, and I quote, we can look back at a time in history where people were told to wear a gold star and they were definitely treated like second-class citizens, so much so that they were put in trains and taken to gas chambers in Nazi Germany. And that's exactly the type of abuse Nancy Pelosi is talking about. So she drew a comparison of because in the House they were forced, they had to wear masks.
Mandated to wear a mask. Yep.
Or mandated to wear a mask. So she was saying being mandated to wear a mask on the House floor was just like when the Jews were forced to wear stars or were singled out by wearing stars and then put in internment camps. I get what she.
In layman's terms,
she compared wearing a mask to being a Jewish person during the Holocaust and World War II. That's literally that's kind of baseline what she did.
And but being ostracized, like the ostracized, being ostracized.
And said it led to being put in a gas chamber. Like, not only did she paint the picture of like saying it's oppression, but she also was saying it will lead to your imminent death. Like, that's
right.
It's highly offensive. It's awful.
Yeah.
Highly.
And we're gonna have one of these nights.
But so the thing is though, with
fascists, come on, dude. I think we can reasonably state that she was talking about the Jewish Holocaust that happened during World War II. The point of it is that a woman of privilege, it seems like just people of privilege, period, in this country, always seems to try to figure out a way to seem oppressed as well, because apparently being oppressed is the end thing to be. And realistically, that was just meat for her base, because the base in her area of Canton, Georgia, they're about, I think, between 70 to 80% Republican, and the majority of them are Maganites. So she knew she wasn't going to lose any fans by making that statement. If anything, that was just meat for her constituents, so she'll get voted in for her next election.
PJ,
well, I think the left also enjoys Holocaust comparisons, because don't they also compare like the I don't know, Trump to the Nazis and all this other stuff? So I would say the masks is probably a little more aggressive. There's usually they at least try to tie it in a little more, but everybody, both sides enjoy doing overwrought Holocaust or Nazi comparisons.
Yes, but hear me, the first part of my statement, I said a person of privilege. I didn't state which party. So that's cute that both liberals and conservatives do it, but the point of it is that they're both up in a position of power and privilege, but they seem to want to be oppressed, because that seems to be the end thing to do.
Hold on. We're going off topic. The original question: what did she apologize for, and what
for that state? So the statement that Tristan read, she made that original statement months ago. So after going to the Holocaust Museum in D.C. this week, she realized the error of her ways and has apologized for that statement. Yes.
Rakia.
Yes.
I don't understand the error. Can you tell me what was her error? What was her error?
By making that statement, it made it seem like she was insensitive to the Jewish American population, because a lot of them immigrated to the U.S. during World War II and after World War II, and that's a very sensitive subject for that community.
Yes.
You talking about
because it basically made light of the trauma that their families members endured during the those events, because they had those badges, but it escalated all the way up to being in internment camps under slavery, where they weren't being fed and they were even killed in gas chambers. So the comment was insensitive.
Yeah, it was an insensitive comment. Yes.
So basically by making that insensitive comment, she was basically trying to say that, oh, well, I'm being oppressed because I have to wear a mask. And I stated that.
Okay, well, listen. Okay. I see where y'all coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But don't y'all know that? Like, hold on. What's your name? With the blue hat?
Mo.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 40.
Yes.
Don't you remember in Living Color when it was open season on making fun of everybody?
But that was 1993, 1994.
And this wasn't a joke.
You can't just make those type of jokes anymore.
This tiptoeing about sensitive subjects. You know how deep this can go.
I don't think it's the tiptoeing. I think it's more of just like understanding, like you can't make false equivalencies here.
And then on top of that, you're talking about comedy.
Let me ask this.
Are you saying that you agree with what she said, or are you just saying you disagree, but you don't think she should have had to apologize for it?
I didn't say nothing about apologizing. I asked specifically what happened. It was open season on everyone, gays, blacks, Jews. We made jokes about this stuff. You said he's 40? 40?
I'll go ahead and answer that question.
Remember in Living Color?
Yeah, and a Living Color. I like that.
Do you remember in Living Color?
On there? Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and keep the conversation going though. Let's go to the main. Let's get back on topic. So I understand what you're trying to say, and like how.
Wrong panel.
I mean, this is it's talk it out. So
I know PJ wants to go, so
yes, please.
Let me just say this, and then I'll let PJ go real quick. So I think difference. I'm gonna let you finish. I know Kanye is my hero, but anyway, I think the difference from Marjorie Taylor versus what Corey's talking about is that within Living Color, that's a joke, right? So if I go to a comedy show, or if I watch a comedic TV show, there's a level of not disbelief, but there's a level of grace I have because I know what that arena is. Marjorie Taylor is not a comedian; she's an elected official who serves at the pleasure of the people being us, the people being all people, gay, straight, black, Jewish, whatever. So she can't say and do the same things that a Chris Rock or a Lisa Lampanelli or anybody like that would do. Because I agree. Listen, my favorite stand-up is Eddie Murphy's Raw. And the first joke in Raw, he says faggot like 20 times.
Hold on, sir. Why can't she say it?
She can. She did.
She did. She can and she did. But I'm just saying
because you said specifically she can't. Why?
Well, when I said
she can't say it without consequence.
Right. She can't say it without consequence or without people taking her to task, which happened.
Who can say it without consequence?
No one.
Who can say it without consequence? And who can say it with consequence?
The consequence is different when you're an elected official making policies in the government. So go ahead, PJ.
Already made that success.
Go ahead, PJ. I'm sorry. So PJ's been waiting to.
Like Corey was saying earlier, I'm trying. We'll get this back on track. Ed Rogers had made the comment earlier, and that's my point here too. Is that this is not the first time that she's made comments similar to this. She's made comments in the past about the space laser and how it's a Jewish conspiracy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Rothschild family.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of people believe this conspiracy that a cabal of Jewish, a family of Jewish people are controlling the banks. And so she's done this crap. 911's an inside job. And there's all the names are gone off the screen. But somebody had mentioned earlier about, the liberals doing it also. And that's a fair comment. But there are some of us who might legitimately believe that white supremacy and American Nazism is very active in the right now. And so these comments, I think, are intentional, and it's meant to minimize the the original event. To compare the Holocaust with putting a piece of fabric across her face. She knew what she was saying. She's apologizing now because it's the right time, and her PR people have recommended that she do so.
But I don't even think her PR people told her to do it. I think Kevin McCarthy told her. If I'm being honest, I think Kevin McCarthy said, "Listen, bitch, you need to do this. Like, we need money for these elections, and some of these people don't want to run us money because of what you said and what you're doing. So we need you to go to this place and make a nice little press release and apologize." Because she knew it. Marjorie Taylor is not dumb. And the thing is, I don't believe that Marjorie Taylor believes half the shit she says. I don't buy that she
Of course not. She's from Gwinnett County.
Right. Like, bitch,
you come from money.
Right. Like, first of all, you knew what the Holocaust was, but you knew it would get you clicks and likes and views on Twitter. You knew it would have you trending. Does she have? I feel like she got stripped of her House committee assignments. Am I wrong about that? So literally, she has nothing else. She has nothing else to do. She has nothing else to do all day but get on Twitter or get on social media and start fuck shit. Like, that's her job at this point, because she don't get to be on House committees and write bills or do anything else.
I don't even think she really wrote
look how close the last presidential elections were. Right. Yeah. And I mean, so this shit works. They don't need to be active. They just need to get people upset.
And I don't think she really has really messed with social media like that. Like, she just needs a camera. She needs a camera and a microphone, and she's gonna say what she's gonna say.
And social media's already been doing it for her, basically. Get in front of a camera. CNN is going to post it. You got the Young Turks going to talk about it on their show.
They love to cover her because she's just always saying something.
Right. You just need a 30-second clip. You need a 30-second clip, and that's all you need to
a blurb.
A blurb. You literally need a highlight, and that's it. Like, I can make a highlight off my computer of something she said. All right. Yes.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. Tristan, were you about to say something?
Oh, I was going to say, and I don't want to veer off topic, but it's still on topic. I think people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are going to be the undoing of the Republican Party, because the problem is you can't run a party from the extreme. You can't. It's not going to.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Not to be funny. If you look at Republican politics, let's just say in my lifetime, right, from what I know. So let's say 1995 until right now, right? Nobody would look at George Bush and call him an extremist. Like, I don't know.
I've been on panels I've seen panels on the left, like over on Prime K's panel, where people do call him a fascist.
And there will some who will. But if we're being completely honest, and we look at his politics, look at how he spoke, look at how he carried himself, look at the policies he advocated for, look at the policies that he signed into law. They're Republican policies. Let's be very clear. They're Republican policies, so they're not going to be popular with Democrats and people like me. But they are not what I would call far right policies. Not in what we call not Marjorie Taylor far right.
Yeah.
Nobody was running around who was a real elected official saying 9/11 was an inside job when George Bush was president.
Well, I guess if you're on the left, you just say that 9/11. I guess if you're on the left, you just say that 9/11 was, something. Some people did something. I guess, is that the words of Ilhan Omar?
That's what she said, but I think the reason why she said that is because what happens oftentimes with 9/11 is we want to paint Muslims to be just that. And her issue is, if I could, obviously the people who committed 9/11 were Muslims, but not all Muslims are terrorists.
Yeah.
It's just like Christians don't run around.
Hold on, let Tristan finish his statement first, and then if you need to say something, Corey.
Christians don't run around claiming Dylan Roof, and Dylan Roof was a whole Christian. But we don't say, well, a Christian shot up this, like, you know what I'm saying? We don't assign religion. At least when I watch TV and when I see specifically
because it was Christian crime, he went to a church.
He went to a church.
I mean, that usually gets reported all over the media when the shooters come out. They're like, okay, this was some crazy religious guy who shot up some, church.
We say religion.
That is more of a black-white thing, so that's why that got that got pushed.
Religious, but we don't about it. We don't specifically say Christian the way when we talk about Muslims who commit terroristic crimes. We make sure we say Muslim. They were Muslims. Those Muslims did that. That's where I think that the Omar thing came from and why she said some people did something. I'm not saying it makes it okay. I'm just saying logically I can understand why she did that.
And people will point out Muslims just based on what they look like. Nobody goes,
right,
that's a Christian. Like, you can't look at someone and say that's a Christian. I mean, you could maybe assume like, waspy or whatever, but like
that's not
that's like attitude or a way they dress. But I'm saying like literally based on skin color alone, people point to somebody and say Muslim. Tristan's absolutely right on that.
Okay, so let's Corey, I'm gonna let you say what you want to say first, and then we're gonna move on to the next topic.
Really, I was trying to see what the guy said in the comment section.
Which guy? There's a couple.
There's two. The same guy. He made two comments. The latest comments.
Let's see. If you're talking about this guy right here, he's
not him.
No.
The last one you just posted. Yeah, go back to that guy.
So, Mr. Justin Lawrence.
Justin Lawrence.
Justin. What up, dude?
What's up, Justin?
The religious wars are pretty bad everywhere. Go to Northern Ireland. Now,
that's the Catholics against the Protestants. England is Protestant, while Northern Ireland is majority Catholic. So they've been having troubles for like
the Catholics and the Protestants on the same team.
Queen.
No, they're not.
No,
not necessarily.
I mean, yes, they're Christian, but they're two different.
They're both Christian. They're different denominations. Yeah,
right.
The Protestants broke away from the Catholics, and they've been yelling at each other ever since.
All because King James. King
Henry.
Henry, yes. King Henry wanted to have a divorce, and the Catholic Church said no. Here we are.
Nah, man, you gotta still marry.
That and Martin Luther. It was a big mix of.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I thought we was gonna have some structure to this conversation.
Well, I mean, we've been talking about the topic itself. So, like, we talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we're about to move on to the next topic. Right now.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So, I have 4 lined up, but the way this last one went, we might only do like 2 or 3. That's okay though. So
that's fine with me.
Okay, so because it's coming up, Juneteenth has been voted to become federal holiday. So if you guys don't know,
Juneteenth is.
Okay, Juneteenth. So Juneteenth is short for June 19th, which is the day that considered officially the end of slavery, which happened 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And then shortly after that, the 13th Amendment was signed. But so what the history for this is that 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation and shortly after the end of the Civil War, federal troops had to go to Galveston, Texas, and let it known throughout Texas that, hey, y'all, slavery is over. It should have been over for a good minute now. So y'all let these folks go. And so at the time, though, like, yes, even I think there wasn't much of the Civil War heading into Texas. So a lot of like plantation owners have moved into Texas to kind of like, it's safe for us to continue with what we're doing here. So when that happened, the federal troops came and were like, nope, gotta let them go. And that's considered the official end of slavery. Now, normally, this is actually more of like a Texas holiday. So it's up until probably the last decade or so. It's been more
around the South.
Yeah, around the South, more so in Texas. It's, but it's caught up in popularity in the last few years.
No, let me tell you what this is. This is putting a pacifier in people's mouths.
Okay.
This is what I mean.
Yeah,
I don't disagree.
Is it a virtue season?
I heard somebody say they agree, and I heard someone say they disagree.
No, we both.
I think we all agree. We all agree with you. We all agree.
Okay. Go ahead. Well,
okay. So the Senate has voted unanimously to make it a federal holiday, which it's kind of interesting considering like the issue of critical race theory discussion in our schools right now.
Oh, side note: Biden signed the bill, so now Juneteenth, like he's so officially,
yes, as of today.
Juneteenth as of today, it's an official federal holiday. Federal workers will be off. Banks will probably be
tomorrow.
Right.
Literally,
people will get paid. So yeah.
Okay, but look. Okay, I got you on that. It's just a day off, but at the same time, for people like, for example, they making all this marijuana legal. Shouldn't Juneteenth be everybody who got a marijuana charge get released?
True.
True. I'm with that.
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
So it's just a pacifier to me until that happens.
I agree. Yeah.
It's in your, go ahead. Hey, PJ, what you got?
Corey, I agree with you in that it's not much, but I think it's something. And try this 10 years from now, how many preschoolers or kindergartners will have spent the week coloring, telling stories? That's where the impact of something like this comes into play. You're right, man. And now you're mentioning, legal marijuana. How many white entrepreneurs are making money in that industry while black entrepreneurs have been in jail for 20 or 30 years? Folks tried to dethrone, wreck our government, and they got less time.
Right.
Than a black person will announce a weed in their pocket. So I agree with you on that.
That's what I'm saying.
And let's keep in mind that making this a federal holiday is not necessarily a new thing. Like I think the first time
it's a pacifier.
I get what you're saying. Yes, I agree with you. I understand that. I'm just saying some history, the historical background. Like this is not the first time that this has come up. This bill was actually originally constructed in 1968. So this has been a long. There have been people. Right, it's a long time coming. There have been people that have been actually fighting for this for several decades. It's just weird timing at this moment. Also, we had talked about this last episode with pride. My only, not my only concern. It's one of my concerns is the commodification, of what Juneteenth is. So right now, if I'm gonna get something Juneteenth, I'm probably gonna buy it from a black-owned business. But the idea that eventually in the future someone's going to a company like Target, Walmart, Kohl's are going to create some Juneteenth wear, flags, memorabilia, something like that, that just completely waters down and does not really discuss the significance and the history of this holiday.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Ultimately, it's like you're saying ultimately, regardless of what it could and should or whatever, it's still a step forward.
Right.
It is.
It's a baby step. But I'll say this. Let me just say this real quick because I got to push back a little bit on what PJ was talking about that, it's not a lot, but it's something. It's extremely frustrating. It's extremely irritating as an African-American person due to the fact that it seems like whenever we're asking for basic human rights, and we're gaslit and pushed to the side when every single other ethnicity in this country is being taken care of. So my blackness is really just it's infuriating. It's almost like a slap in the face when you make statements like that, because the question then comes, well, then how long do we have to wait? Because we've already been in this for over 400 years.
It's one of those, this is what I asked for and this is what I'm getting.
Right.
First, let me
I asked for
apologize.
this.
No, I respect you, so I apologize if I touched the nerve, and so I'm not going to dig back in on that. I don't need to prove my statement to you. I respect you, and I appreciate that. I will say on that point, Blacks in America have absolutely suffered the worst, right?
Well,
But there are also other
it's
things.
not a
Hang on.
virtual
There's also other things like we talk about. Oh gosh, was it Loving Day? Every year we celebrate Loving Day. My parents were mixed couple, right? So I was born just
Hold
a few
on, you
years
mean
after.
Valentine's Day?
No.
What's
No.
The loving case.
But
was the
nobody
case that
nobody
basically
talks
put
about
generational
the Japanese woman in Nevada who, with her white fiance, helped to overturn the state Supreme Court and allowed mixed race marriages 10 years prior. I get the frustration, and I promise you, I do not feel it to the level that you do. So I respect you on that.
Can I? I want to touch
little
on
bit.
Hold on, Tristan. Let him finish because I got something to say.
Hold on. PJ, are you finished? PJ.
Okay. Yes, I believe he is.
Okay, so
Mo,
with the example that you stated with the loving case, let me go ahead and dispel the romanticization of that case, because quiet as is kept, the wife that was people automatically assumed that she was African American. She didn't even consider herself being African American. She was more tapped into her Native American roots. So that's number one. Number two,
that allowed my parents to get married.
Okay, so guys, we're getting a lot of overlap right now. So let's keep it focused, please.
And number two, I get that that other people have pain. I'm not saying this is not a oppression Olympics. What I am saying is that as an African American person in this country and in this diaspora, where we have been begging and pleading and fighting, it's a slap in the face when we're asking right now for the Voting Rights Act will not just affect us, but affects the entire country with voter suppression. Also, the George Floyd Act. Those are being ignored because
the John Lewis
Voting Rights Act, excuse me, and the George Floyd Act, where these are issues that are happening right now as of today. And then they just like, you know what? Let's pull this bill back from 1968. Maybe we'll give them that, and they'll be happy with that. No, we're getting to a point that with these kids, these Generation Zs, they're not putting up with the pacifying. And that's what this bill was being put into place as. It was a pacifier. And
if I may, I just want to respond to that. I absolutely agree with you. And I do believe that the younger generation won't put up with this. You're right. You're right. This shit won't keep going the way it has been because of that.
Megan or Ruth, do you guys want to add into this?
I don't really. I'm fine with it being a holiday. I do agree that it's, probably not. If they got something to unanimously pass Congress, it can't be that gritty or meaty.
Well, the Senate, it passed unanimously in the Senate, but unfortunately in the House, no, it wasn't in the House because there was a couple of representatives, including one from Georgia, that declined. Voted against
the Senate unanimously.
It was just the Senate.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was 20 House. I think it was 20 House members who did vote against it, but obviously it still passed the House.
Yeah.
There were 20,
right?
But
we do have to
continue, Ruth.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying that. I don't have a problem with it, but I think it's I'm sorry. What's your name? This is the host, as she pointed out. Yes, I'm so sorry. Ricky, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name.
That's okay.
As Ricky pointed out, it does have a lot of cultural significance, I guess, especially for Texans. So I'm glad it's becoming a holiday. But I do agree that it's not some revolutionary thing that's gonna uproot.
My initial thought was like it's cute.
Fire.
I do. I agree that it's a pacifier. I agree with everything that's being said. At the same time, I do think that let's not underestimate the power that I think so many people in America about history are woefully uninformed, specifically about America's history. And so it's my hope that with this being a holiday, that genuinely speaking, people will now you're going to be forced to know a little bit more about America's history.
Yeah, because I hadn't heard of the holiday until I started working in Cartersville, and there's a big celebration for it in Cartersville, Georgia. So I was like, oh, like I saw a big sign, and I was like, what is that? And then my coworker who I was working with explained it to me, and that town actually has a really like rich civil rights history. It was really cool working there. Yeah, obviously it's not even making a ripple in the pond of like fixing the atrocities that have happened on American soil by any means.
And it's things like that I think it's things like that will help, hopefully, in schools, kids learn more. Just like, I remember I learned about the Tulsa race riots when I was like 19. I wasn't in high school, I was in college. But I remember when Watchmen came out on HBO like a year ago, and the opening scene was the Tulsa race riots. Then you suddenly saw this uptick in people Googling information. Now schools, okay, hopefully you'll teach it because it's a part of popular culture. So when you have something that becomes a holiday, it's my hope that it helps us as a people become more educated about the history of Black people in America and the struggle they've had and, all that good stuff. Just to be, in on a positive note, I guess.
Right. Okay. So speaking on that ending right there, we're going to go to a quick commercial break before we get into our main topic. So thank you guys, everyone, for adding your 2 cents on these current events. So let's go on to a quick commercial break. So for those of you that are looking to have their hot girl summer on and poppin', please check out Pretty in Pink bundles to get it going. Hey, shout out to her.
Rocking 30 inches, you ain't doing shit.
Right.
In my T.S. Madison voice. Shout out to T.S. Madison.
So before we get into our main topic, I want to do not necessarily a disclaimer, but just saying that this is a difficult topic for many, particularly those that are survivors of this. So I would first like to say, mention the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 800-656-HOPE, which is 4673. So if you know someone or you have been in that situation, please use the national hotline to get resources and to figure out what to do. But our main topic of tonight is what is rape culture. So before we get into the discussion, I want to quickly do define it. So when we're talking about these things, especially when we take these terms that are coming out in the 21st century and call it a culture, woke culture, cancel culture, rape culture. Let's make sure that we actually define what it is. So for rape culture is a sociological theory of a setting in which rape is pervasive and normalized due to societal attitudes about gender and sexuality. So that is the definition that I'm working with right now. I want to know, this is hard to start a conversation on.
Okay.
It is, and it's not necessarily to say trigger warning, but trigger warning for those of you that have dealt with this situation. Feel free to back away from this. But so what is rape culture for everyone? So, given the definition, where do you guys stand on that?
I mean, I think what you read was perfectly fine. I think that with rape culture, I think sometimes that's the stuff we watch on TV. That's what we hear in music. It's sometimes I don't think you you're not always cognizant that you're ingesting that and taking it in and making it a part of your experience. Like even myself, I'm a gay man, so obviously I don't deal with women in that way. But it but just growing up in America, watching American movies, American music, television, existing in America, period, you take in some of that, and that affects how you treat women. That affects how you view certain situations. If I'm being completely 100% honest, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody who's watching or any women who are watching. Whenever I hear a rape accusation, my natural go-to is I don't default to believing the woman. That's just me being 100% honest. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I find myself trying to make an excuse for certain things. So it'll be like with the Harvey Weinstein stuff. I said, well, yo, why did you go to his hotel room? Like, why? Like you knew what was popping. Like you knew what it was. So why did you go? Obviously, that's not important. The why somebody went isn't important. They were still raped or assaulted. Why you went? You didn't go to get raped. Maybe you went truly meaning to exchange consensual sex for a part in a movie. I don't know, but exchanging consensual sex for a part of the movie is still not rape. So yeah, that's where I am with it. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So if I bring up any stats, I'm getting my stats from RAINN, which is RAINN, the Race Abuse and Incest National Network. So if I start bringing up any stats, that's where I'm getting it from. So we do. I don't know if many people know this, but like the actual percentage of false accusations is not even in double digits. Like
it's 2%.
2%.
It's very low.
Yes.
Although a lot of them don't get reported, and a lot of people don't necessarily report them criminally. They may do it later after the statute of limitations is expired. Yes. So they can't prosecute it criminally. But I think a lot of that is more of a cultural thing. Kind of back to the rape culture thing. It's to me it's like a culture that like promotes or doesn't discourage, I guess, rape of usually women, though it happens to men too. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I would say in the West we're probably a lot better than a lot of other places in the world. But overall but as you know, there's still a lot of problems. Obviously, there's people that get victimized. So yeah.
Can we address this comment that someone just made? Because I do want to touch on that real quick. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be like hogging. So yes, it does. I think with gay men, though, I think gay rapes are super underreported because in general, men don't report rape. Whether it be
sexual assault for men
they just don't. I think oftentimes with gay men, they feel like they may not even be believed because let's say if I meet a dude on a hookup app, right, and I go to his apartment to have consensual sex. I went to have consensual sex. I didn't go to get raped. So imagine having to go to a police station and say, well, I met this dude on this app at 2 a.m. and I said I want to do X, Y, and Z. And then when I got there, X, Y, and Z happened, but I didn't want it to happen. You see what I'm saying? Oftentimes within gay culture, you have drugs, like party drugs are a whole thing. So you have guys I don't know if you guys have ever read these stories about this guy in LA. He's an older white guy. He's had 3 black men die in his house.
Hold on, Corey. Let Tristan finish.
It's a gay white guy. He's a rich dude. He pays these gay black men who are escorts to come to his house, use drugs, and have sex. What happens is he loads them up with so many drugs that they literally don't know what's going on. You can't consent to anything if you're high out of your mind, and they OD. This has happened 3 times, and he's not going to jail, has not been arrested, and 3 gay black men.
The third one he did.
He was arrested? Okay.
On the third one.
It took 3.
Justin.
Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah. See, here's the thing, Tristan. You sort of making rape culture homosexual.
No, he was just talking about his own cult community.
Right. I just wanted just that specific experience. I want to be very clear. Obviously, that's specific to gay people, gay culture, and the gay experience.
And it does affect the
I'm not trying
LGBTQ
to
community.
diminish that either, sir. I'm just simply saying, where are we going with this? Is this rape culture?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me break it down. Let me
Mo,
break
can I
it
say
down
something real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's make this clear, because rape culture is not specific to women or people that identify with to women, because it does affect women, men. It does affect people in the LGBTQ community. Trans women have a very high.
That's my point.
But we're talking about the culture in general. So like the trans women have like a very high rate of sexual assault. So we're talking about. Yeah, we are talking about it. So right now, Tristan was addressing a comment that someone had made about it affecting the gay community. So that's why he was talking about it. He wasn't specifically saying that it's only affecting the gay community, but it's just that comment. So Mo, go ahead.
Okay. Let me with my version, well, not version. Let me go where how the concept of rape culture came about. The term rape culture was originally coined in the 1970s. The term appeared in the book Rape, the first source book for women, published by the New York Radical Feminist Collective in 1974, and was explored more in depth in the 1975 documentary Rape Culture. So this is not something new. That it's just something that the millennials came up with. This is something that's been around for decades. It's just becoming more mainstream because people are talking more about it, particularly with the Time's Up / Me Too movement that came about. Which I do have to shout out that the Me Too movement was started by a Black woman. Melissa Milano did make the comment in order to make it popular. But I do have to, make that shout out as well, of course. My view of rape culture is basically how society is male, patriarchal driven, and it's the side effect of that, basically. Since our focus is so much on, man, getting some, that women are being, subjugated into a certain extreme, unfortunately. Now is not as bad due to the fact that women are speaking out more, but
it used to be 1 in 4 women, and now it's 1 in 6.
Right. So I mean, it is getting better, but it was still a lot of work to do, basically, within that.
PJ, you muted, PJ.
Can't hear you, man.
Yeah.
All right. So Tristan mentioned earlier about it being in our media also, music and things like that. And I was thinking about Grease, right? Grease is a very popular play. It's been around for ages. My oldest performed in it, and some like Summer Nights. That first,
God, that song.
Right? So the chorus is like, the women say, tell me more, was it love at first sight? But then the guys respond, tell me more, did she put up a fight?
Cringe.
Right?
Cringe, yes.
When they redid that musical recently, I think they had to take that line out because that was just.
Well, and there's also too the whole comparing women to your car in that musical. Women, it's very much like pervasive. What most said with patriarchy. With the patriarchy, it's about property. It's about ownership. Like even
commodification of women.
Well, and even what Tristan said, how it affected his brain. I remember in college one time having to put a gay gentleman in place who kept touching my butt. And I was like, it's not okay for you to keep doing this. I know you don't mean it sexually, but this is my body. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like sometimes, and he kind of had a moment like, oh, I wasn't trying. I was just trying to be fun. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, but you've got to know women aren't your property. You know what I mean? Regardless if you want to fuck them or not. You know what I mean? So
we have body autonomy.
And vice versa. I've heard stories from the other way of men who have gotten groped inappropriately by women. So it's
sure. Yeah.
A lot of gay men suffer that too.
Yes.
I was gonna bring that point up. What I think when we talk about rape culture, I think something that gets kind of left out or we don't think about is because men have been bred or men have been trained to think that I'm a man, so I'm supposed to want sex. Like if you want to have sex with me, if I don't want it from you, that means something's wrong with me. So I remember there is an interview with and this is on video. Y'all can go watch this on YouTube. Lil Wayne is in the studio. And this is back when like Lil Fizz and Nicki Minaj and Drake and they all first got signed. And Lil Fizz was like 12 or 13, and they start talking about buying him a prostitute. Or they asked him if he was still a virgin, and then like we're gonna buy you a prostitute so that way you can like fuck. And Nicki Minaj is like shook, and she's like, "No, leave this baby alone." But like that's okay, that's fine. Like within male culture, that's supposed to be okay because as a man, no matter how old you are, if a girl offers you sex, you're supposed to like it.
Hold on, stop. Are we saying rape culture is a male thing? That's what I'm hearing.
I'm saying rape culture it can be a male thing, yes.
It can affect both sexes.
Let me reiterate. Are we saying rape culture is definitely a male thing? Meaning
as in like
male propagated or male initiated. Male is the only rapist in the world.
No.
I'm saying that women.
That's what I'm hearing.
I'm saying that women can and do rape men. In fact, when I was in high school, there was a girl during senior prom.
We all know that too. Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So
no,
so I'm gonna talk about this here because Ruth was about to get there too, I believe. But just to add to Justin's point, like you see all the time when a woman teacher has sex with one of her students. So like there was a Hulu miniseries called The Teacher.
It's so good. Girl, it's brilliant.
And it was good. And so like we don't talk about that as you were mentioning. Like we're made to believe like the boys or men want sex, regardless of like not completely ignoring that like this teacher who's an adult has a power dynamic, has power over this younger male student. So there's a power dynamic there.
That's
so
not
like
really exactly where I was going, Rakia. I was going to this level to whereas as if women don't want dick.
That's not. I don't think that's even come up in the conversation like that. No.
No.
That's not what we're saying at all.
Right.
No.
Let's be clear.
Hang on. I'd like some elaboration on that. You can't just say that with no context.
Consensual sex. It's consensual sex.
Right. Go ahead, Corey.
I said it.
Okay. I mean, like with the
women. Go ahead.
To go back to what Rakia said about a teacher, what the beautiful thing about a teacher is what's really cool is you have this kid, he's in high school, he sleeps with his teacher who's a woman. When he gets to college, he doesn't realize how much him sleeping with his teacher fucked him up. And so he gets to college and he starts trying to have meaningful relationships with women, and he can't because he had this really fucked up relationship with his teacher that was purely only there because she was over him. And in reality, you can't. Consensual sex cannot exist if someone has power over the other person.
Hold on. Let him finish.
Now you're bringing pedophilia in it.
No, it's not pedophilia. But Corey, with all due respect, it's not just pedophilia. If me and Mo work at a job together and I am Mo's boss, we the same age, me and Mo can't enter into a to me, in my opinion, me and Mo can't enter into a consensual sexual relationship if I'm her superior. Because no matter what happens, because I'm over her, there's going to be pressure on her. Even if I'm a nice guy and she likes me, etc. And let's say we do consent to have sex at some point, she may have the feeling that if I don't do XYZ for him, then what about my job? Does that make sense, y'all?
First of all, I'm not going to bottom for you, but anyway.
Thank you for that.
So you're so what Tristan's talking about is power dynamics, and I think what Corey is talking about like the whole general term with rape culture, which is basically just how women are treated in this society basically affects men and women when it comes to sexual relationships.
You agreed.
The patriarchy hurts everyone.
We do remember that R. Kelly was molested as well, right? We threw him under
He
the
was.
Right. Okay.
Right, and that's exactly what the point that we're making. Due to the fact that rape culture,
it sound like rape culture was just a male thing. That's all.
No.
I had to segue that real quick.
Oh, not at all.
No. I think like if you look over the broad span of history, there's probably been more, men raping women than vice versa. But I would say, at least in today's culture, not in all instances, and a lot of these dynamics they vary so much with the people and who's involved and what positions they're in. But I would say that I wouldn't necessarily give a woman, especially if she's in power, a pass for her behavior just because for millennia women have been not treated well and been often more the victims.
What do you mean pass for her behavior?
But like what we were talking about with female teachers getting like slaps on the wrist for sleeping with male students. Mm-hmm. Even though if the sexes were reversed and it was like a male teacher that was sleeping with a 15-year-old student.
Hold on.
Let her finish.
A male teacher he wouldn't get a slap on the wrist, would he?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying is that if you got like a 40-year-old teacher and like I don't know, say 18-year-old, but still young student versus the other way around, it's like a totally different reaction, and it should be a lot more of the same.
That's stuff from Mary Lee Letourneau.
That's all I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was well.
Ashley brings up I think a pretty valid point here. When I was researching rape culture, especially here in America, it came out of the second wave of feminism, 1970s, and it is gay. Yes, anybody who's marginalized has the potential of being raped by somebody else who's in power, because we know rape is about dominance, not about getting off. But I think I do think there's some focus we should lend towards women in rape culture, right? Like fashion. I remember as a kid in middle school learning about China and how backwards they were and how they would bind their women's feet because it was a sign that it was pretty, but it was also a way to restrict their movement.
Corey,
now look at that. Look at restricting movement and women's fashion. Women's fashion is form over function completely. No real pockets. You couldn't run away from a bear if one was chasing you in heels, right? So I think there's something there. And then how we teach kids about sex. Like I have 2 daughters, and I don't know if teenage boys are still running around saying that blue balls is a thing. But the fact that I grew up, and until I was an adult, I thought it was a scientific thing, and I don't know how many teenage girls I tried to convince with that bullshit. It scares me to send my daughters out into the world that believes blue balls is still a thing, right? Because it's setting them up to go, I need to help him feel better. This is a medical condition. And they end up being hump toys for boys until we learn how to have sex. Most grown women I know they say they don't enjoy sex until they're in their late 20s or early 30s when they finally have had the opportunity to learn. Meanwhile, we've been humping everything that moves from my love seat to the tree in my backyard, for years.
Well, so I think part of that is because when you look at how girls are raised versus how boys are raised, right? If a girl when I say early age, whatever age you want to call it, pick it. We've heard the term fast little girl. Girls are fast. Girls are fast and loose. But if you're a boy and you're just as sexual at an early age, that's no big deal to people. In fact, that's considered to be natural and okay. So
and
part of the reason
in some places.
And encouraged. So my thing is, you shouldn't be encouraging children.
Yeah, girls get told, oh, they're so mature for their age and they act so adult.
Right.
But then they can't do adult, but they're fast if they do this other adult thing. And
right.
It's very
yeah, it's a confusing mix. It's hard. There are some double standards, and it's so hopefully we can move to a society that's got more of at least more more consistent standards.
Okay, so that leads me to like my. Go ahead.
That's the cultural part. That's the culture part of this rape culture that we're talking about.
Yeah.
All right, so that would lead me to my next part. My next question is like, so what are these examples of rape culture? So we were talking about like how our children are raised in society, the difference between raising boys and girls, and how we, especially when they're in that adolescence age, like how we approach them when they're going through puberty. So some other things that are mentioned, like defining manhood as dominant and aggressive, or womanhood as submissive and passive, pressure on men and young boys to score, the pressure on women to appear a certain way, whether it's them being, soft and demure or not cold, like, and the things that we don't really think of, we think it's just, normal society sayings that we might say to our children that kind of perpetuates and puts the wrong idea in their heads. So like examples of rape culture in our society, if y'all can go ahead.
I mean, I think just to kind of piggyback what that's my cousin Tippy, y'all. Hey girl, I love you. To piggyback off her comment, I think the fact that let me be very specific. Within straight people's culture, relationships, whatever, I think it's a lot more, people don't have conversations before the sex happens. Like if you're a gay person, because of how gay sex is, there has to be a legitimate conversation about who's doing what's going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like for people who are straight, especially women, I feel like girls are not made to feel comfortable with having that conversation with their partner, saying, hey, this is what I'm into, this is what I'm not into, this is what I'm willing to do, this is what I'm not willing to do. Because if you do that, then suddenly you're a prude or you're a killjoy, anything like that.
Or the fact that you might... Go ahead, Megan. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of pressure to be, even from a young age. I remember in high school, I was the only girl trombone player in the band. And you had to be cool. You had to be cool with boner jokes and offense, because I was a trombone player, I remember to survive, I had to be very cool with some very sexist things happening,
Gosh. So I was in the drum line in high school. That was a major thing too. Just
or else you're a prude. If you're like, that's not real. I don't really want to talk about boners. They'd be like, you're frigid. You're a prude.
And I would say, kind of Tristan's point about like the lack of communication. I think that's probably a real thing, especially since we're kind of in this weird space now where we've kind of moved culturally from being like women are property, they don't have any rights, they're just going to be married off to whoever the father says, and kind of we've moved away from that to where, for the most part, women tend to have a lot of freedom to pretty much choose to date and interact with who they want, and so we've now gotten into this whole consent thing, which is honestly a fairly new, I think, cultural phenomenon, at least over the span of history.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think we've kind of gotten to the point where we know that sex is not just something that should be forced on somebody. Obviously they need to, be consenting. And I think it's important that people get to know who they're going to be sleeping with, before. I mean, I come from the perspective of I'm more conservative. I believe more I believe in more traditional relationships. So I think that people should get to know who they're sleeping with before, because I think, and there's a lot of confusion now because everybody is kind of more aware of that. Rape is bad. People shouldn't be forced into situations, and I think it also creates a lot of confusion for people that have had bad sexual encounters but aren't sure if they're actually rape or sexual assault. Like if things were poorly communicated, things happen that they may not have necessarily wanted, and it's opened up a really new gray area that's hard for both men and women to navigate. I think, there's still obviously there's more the physical aspect for men that's more
delving into the enthusiastic consent.
Yeah.
Can we put this question up here? Because I think it's the one that Justin asked. I think it's an interesting question. I just want to know what everyone feels about it. I'm genuinely curious.
I think that's people's business. I think if I think your sex life is your business, and
as long as it's consensual, I don't think it really.
I don't think it I don't think things but taboos are part of sexual activity.
That's a kink, and I'm not. That's a kink I'm not.
Yeah, that's
still young. We'll not.
The kink dynamics in a bedroom should not enter into your society.
But that's like asking if somebody wearing a schoolgirl costume in the bedroom is going to like affect, like, I don't know, education. Like, I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It better not.
It might affect my education. I might learn something new.
Yeah. Cut it out.
I'm sorry.
PJ, go ahead.
I couldn't help myself.
I want to ask Ruth. Earlier, you had said that you kind of lean towards more of traditional relationships, right? Regarding men and women. What's your opinion on premarital sex? Because you said we should learn as much as we can about our partners.
Oh, I'm personally against premarital sex. Like, I'm like, obviously, I don't think everyone's going to abide by that, but as a general rule, I'm against. I'm abstinent. So.
And how would you recommend, say, my daughter learn more about her partner as much as she can?
Talk about it. And you can do, like, I mean, I'm not your daughter, so I would say just learn to set physical boundaries that you can, be okay with. Even if somebody doesn't wait until marriage, I mean, that's like waiting for a long time. I do think there's value in just like not, jumping in bed, early on, not just because like they're a slut or anything like that. I just think it's easier. I think sexual relationships tend to go better when the people know each other, have a connection, and they know each other well enough to at least understand when somebody's uncomfortable, when somebody's upset, that kind of thing. So I'm not even saying that, everybody has to wait until marriage, because that's never going to happen. I know that, but for the minority of people, but I think it is good to teach both men and women, because either I would say restraint / good judgment, I would suppose.
I know we kind of
Ashley put up that comment. I kind of
before we get to that comment, I wanted to add to Ruth's statement was that there are different ways to find intimacy with your partner so I think that's what you're trying to get at. Like, stop it. There are other ways that are not sexual in nature to find intimacy with your partner for you to get to know them. Okay,
but this comes to that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Or even it can be, in the direction of sex, like, kissing and whatever. So you're getting to learn about each other's bodies, but you're not going with the expectation of like, all right, we're going to do it all right now. It's all going to happen, So you can take more time to kind of learn each other's, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
You know what? I apologize for asking that, because I feel like now because it's sex, we're gonna deviate down this path. I'm gonna blame it on Justin's. I'm gonna blame it on Justin's.
I don't know.
It is.
It's all your fault, Justin. Just so you know.
I think.
Hey guys, I don't know what happened. I couldn't get back in.
We got you back in. There was something wrong with your connection, so it's okay. You're back in now.
I think I'm not. Before I say this, I want to be very clear. I
missed a lot of the show, y'all.
You good, bro? I am not a woman.
Y'all heard me?
I'm not a woman. I'm not.
Yeah, we heard
a woman.
you.
I'm not comparing my situation to a woman. But what I am saying is, I waited a very long time before I had sex with a man, and the one thing I realized in waiting in that time is that I think that women go through is that there is this pressure to say okay. There's always this pressure to be cool. Like if a dude want to fuck you, there's this pressure with you gotta say yeah. And if you don't say yeah, then
blue balls.
I ain't gonna.
I agree. And I have heard the blue ball excuse. Trust me, trying to be abstinent is not. I've had every excuse you could think of thrown out there.
And then to add on top of that, not to tell all my business, I had an experience with a guy where I had said upfront, I don't want to have sex. I don't want to have sex. We can do other stuff, but I don't want to have like sex. So we get to the get down. We're doing the things. It's good. And at one point, he's holding me down. And he got like, let me be very clear. He didn't like rape me. He eventually like realized I really wasn't comfortable with it and let me up. But in that moment, I realized, yo, if this dude wanted to take advantage of me, I couldn't do anything to stop it. And for most women, when you go to have sex with a guy, the guy's going to be bigger than you. So when you're in that position, you're vulnerable. If somebody, the only thing stopping someone from raping you is their own consciousness and their own, like,
you said he didn't rape you, right? Hold on. You said
I said he did not rape me.
Rape you.
He did not. Correct.
Okay.
Trishan.
Yes.
Okay. Let's focus on real rape.
Hey,
well, no,
he was talking about the.
He was on topic.
My point. Yeah, my point is that when women are in a position with a man where the man is bigger than them, that's a very vulnerable position to be in, because at any point in time, that person, in theory, could force themselves on you, and there's not, depending on how big you are, there's not a whole lot you can really do about it. Does that make sense?
I don't understand.
Yeah, and I think it's important. Yeah, go ahead.
I think his connection's delayed. I'm almost positive his connection is delayed.
I think, and I wanted to say for clarity with the whole waiting for marriage thing, I do think that there is a problem with sort of the history of sort of the more conservative areas of relationships where there's too little information about sex, where nobody knows anything, and then once they get older and they get into situations, they don't know anything, they don't know what they like, they don't know what they're interested in, and so that causes a whole other set of issues, which I think I think there's a balance that needs to be struck between like having too much information to the point that you have like little kids watching porn, which I think is not a good idea, because I think that just puts a lot of weird ideas in people's heads. I think I think that's an area where there's like, okay, that's way too much information. But I don't think that like, okay, we're not telling you anything about sex and you're just going to figure it out on your own. Or
I think having age appropriate sexual conversations with your child. So like my son's 2, right. He knows he has a penis.
Right.
Like, he
should.
This is my penis. When I bathe him, I'm like, I'm watching your crotch now. Like, we use anatomically correct words and we tell them what's happening. So if someone else is doing this to my kid, he can tell me.
Right. Yeah.
And it's also giving your child agency over their own body. Like, exactly. I think it's very important that at an early age you realize that your body is yours.
I'm not telling my 2-year-old the mechanics of it.
Right. No.
By any means. But he needs to know that is that, and I have breasts, blah blah blah. But like, we're not.
I absolutely agree with you, Megan, because I tell you right now, once I have my kids, I'm giving them proper terminology because I want to be sure. Not he touched my no-nos. No, he touched my vagina. He touched my penis. What it is. So when I go to prison. Everybody's aware,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
But like, and that's and as a teacher, like that's important too, like because as a teacher, like you really got to be careful about how you navigate those conversations because you don't know.
A baby's in a uterus. It's not in the tummy. You don't have to tell them how it got in the uterus yet, but you need to tell them it's women women identifying people that are cisgender have uteruses. You know what I mean? Like,
and I think lack of education can lead people into situations where they're easily coerced, which leads into rape, a rape culture thing.
Very
because
much.
if they're put in a position where they don't know what to have control over. Right. I generally think that I like the consent discourse because it teaches people that you should have the ability to say yes or no to whatever action you want to happen with your body. I tend to think still that there is value in waiting for that, maybe not till marriage for some people, but at least a decent amount of time before getting into sexual obviously now somebody forces you, that's not what I'm talking. That's rape. That is completely on the person that forced them, not the victim.
Yes. So Joshua Combs has made some points in here that I want to bring up. So like one of his points was the ignore people who are very sexually active and are not interested in relationships. I think that we still got to understand, like, the underlying issue is communication, body autonomy, consent. And like that's actually one of the examples of red culture. Like just because someone's promiscuous does not mean that they deserve to be assaulted.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like we can bring that up. Go ahead, Tristan.
Well, I said something earlier, and I want to put a caveat on because I said if somebody isn't sober, they can't consent to sex. That's not always true, and just let me explain.
Legally, that is.
I've had a boyfriend, and we've consensually gone out together and gotten consensually drunk, and came home and had consensually very good drunk sex. I like that. So, not and there are times where if me as an adult, I say, okay, you know what, I want to do this and consensually have sex with you. That can happen. Now, it is not okay for someone to take it, for you to be so inebriated that you can't say yes, you don't know what's happening. Obviously, that's a different thing.
Yeah,
but I think as adults, we all know where that line is.
We would hope. But yeah, and then Joshua had mentioned, like, movies are counter. This is so-called rape culture. Sex is usually on the first date, as if to experience that is a necessity early on. So he mentioned like American Pie. Like that entire movie is about this teenage boy trying to get laid, and like it's think about like all the movies that we watched in the 90s, like the teen movies in the 90s, putting that pressure on, like, this is what teenagers do. It doesn't have to be that way.
Cruel Intentions, child. They were having all the sex all the time, everywhere,
and
doing the things.
Right. But like, that's also part of our culture, though. Like, we, as seeing, not even just like the 90s, like some of the teen shows today, where like it's very common for the teenagers to have sex. Granted, like the actors are like in their 20s, but like they're playing 16 and 17 year olds. Yeah.
Glee.
Yeah.
I want to say that is, I don't know I can't speak to anybody else's experience here, but that is a normal part of being a teenager.
Yeah,
I agree.
I was out. True. From the time I grew up with a single mom in the 80s. When we had things they were called latchkey kids, right? My mom worked.
Yeah.
I'd go to school. I'd come home. I'd make my own meals. I'd watch my baby sister. When I started dating, right, I was hanging out with other latchkey kids who had single moms who were working. Guess what we were doing? Mm-hmm. So, I think the movies from the 80s and 90s tells it from a very, I think, patriarchal or male-dominated perspective of chasing the booty, But there's truth to that. That shit does happen. And if you don't think your kids do that,
that's true.
You're mistaken.
I agree with you. I think that movies exaggerate it to a obviously, but I do think there is I think there are elements of truth to some of the stereotypes, but the problem is when they get so ingrained that that people aren't allowed to deviate from those. I do think that on general, men will tend to want sex more. That does not apply to every man and does not apply to every woman. So it's a thing of understanding that there can be broad trends, but not everyone's going to fit into that trend.
Right. Can we talk about this? Go ahead, Tristan. We want to talk about this right here.
I was about to go into that. Yeah, go ahead.
I just think it's very. I know this isn't a teen show, but I just know with Sex in the City, one of the cool things that I liked about Sex in the City is
that show.
Well, you had 4 women, and they both were dealing with sex very differently. You had someone like Charlotte, who was very demure and very like, I'm not giving my pearls to everybody. I'm discerning. That's my choice. You have Samantha, I'm fucking whoever I want to fuck. It's my body. I like sex. I don't give a fuck. So that way, it's not just one experience. You can see that obviously as a woman, you can choose to do one of these many things, and that's okay. It's your body.
And I love that show, and I agree. And I love that show because it really it showed like the bad sides of some of those.
Yes.
Like it showed Charlotte getting into like the bad situation where she married a guy that couldn't do it, and then you had Samantha and her struggling with with actually finding meaningful. I like it because it showed that no solution is like the perfect one for everyone.
Perfect one.
Yeah.
Right. Relationships are complicated.
Yeah, everyone's going to approach it differently.
Yes. So this comment down here by JGJ. So he says, unfortunately, do you think the paradigm has crossed to the other extreme, making men afraid to approach women in a masculine way for fear of cancellation or false accusations?
Yes. Yeah. Especially. Yeah, it has.
Hey, Rakia.
Yes.
Rakia. Let me address JGG.
Go ahead.
JGJ. Let me address him.
Go ahead.
JGJ. Never be afraid to approach any woman that you find attractive, bro. I'm telling you, bro.
Yes.
Approach, say hey, introduce yourself, say your name.
Just don't be creepy.
See, hey, Rakia, you skipped that one pretty fast, didn't you?
I didn't touch it. That's not me. So go ahead.
It was me.
Who skipped it?
I did it. I did it.
Let's see Jan.
So before we do that, like caveat, sure, approach, but if there is a decline, take that L, walk away. PJ,
And walk away.
Yeah.
My
But y'all act
question
like
is,
every man in the world can't take a L. Every woman is not
I think the amount of women that have been. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is, of course, you're not gonna be every woman's cup of tea,
No.
JGJ. But you gotta, hey, if you like her, you gotta say something to her.
Shoot that shot.
That's fine, but we can
Tell
also get in.
tell JGJ to give me a thumbs up if he feeling me.
Okay, but we also can't ignore that, like, that we do have instances of women being assaulted, abused, killed even for.
It's not happening like that, like y'all think.
It's happening enough.
It's happening enough. That got beat up because
at the liquor store, right?
At the no, she was at the gas station,
right?
The gas station, walking back to her car.
Real men is not doing that. I'm telling you.
They're men that are real.
Y'all making this seem like.
I mean, you're right. They talk, but the point of it is that they still doing it. You feel it?
There was a dude who I saw on social right now on the Shade Room. I think it is. A dude pulled a gun on a girl because she said no. Like her and her girlfriends are out like eating, and he gets mad because like he approaches her. And she says, "Nah, I'm good." Well, fuck you, bitch.
That's not a real man.
Goes to his car.
It doesn't matter.
I agree. I agree
that's not
with
the point.
I agree with you.
Over and over.
With that being said,
but y'all making it seem like rape is a man culture thing, though.
Well, we haven't, because we've discussed it. It's a whole spectrum of people. We've discussed it. It's men, women, straight, queer. We've mentioned all those. Yes, we have. Go ahead, PJ.
I think I wanted to touch this with JGJ's comment, and Corey might be able to address it. It sounds, Corey, like you agree with, or you're encouraging JGJ to be masculine, to say, hey, don't be afraid, within reason, right? Everybody agrees.
If you like a woman,
bound of respect. But my question is, what does masculine mean? Because I picked up a lot of girls in high school by playing guitar. I was never on a football team.
Simple.
It's simple. What is masculine?
It's simple. Okay, it's simple. Masculine is outward, literally. Men give, women receive. Well,
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I agree.
Tristan.
It's this simple. Men give, women receive, man.
What does that mean?
You can just go ahead. Because I didn't get to finish.
No, go ahead. No. I agree with you, bro. I completely agree with you 100%.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I think he froze. Okay, I want to just.
No, he didn't froze.
No, I ain't froze. I'm listening. Y'all ask me a question, then don't try to shut up.
Well, no, he realized that he cut you off, so he was like, "I'm gonna let you finish. Go ahead and finish, bro."
Yeah, because I agree with you.
Okay. Men are the givers and women are the receivers. So what it means to be masculine is to go out there and say, okay, I like you. What's happening? She could say no. So my point is this whole rape thing. I just don't see it. Dudes don't gotta do no raping.
But
it's not
feminine
that they,
men
but they
ask
do though. That's the
and
problem.
they get an answer. So I'm trying to find out what's the difference between, say, a masculine man asking and a, say, feminine man asking. Like, what's that distinction?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Because Prince was
That's not
considered
what I'm
feminine,
talking
but he
about.
definitely got a whole bunch of ladies.
I'm not talking. No,
I think
I'm saying
I would say a feminine man.
there's a lot of masculine dudes that don't have a lot of women.
We got a lot of overlap.
I think that's a very broad question, but I would think masculine men would probably be a little more confident in themselves and be better at taking rejection, I would think.
I apologize if my question was vague or general, but that's based on JGJ's original comment about being masculine and on Corey saying being masculine too. I'm just trying to figure out what that definition is, because in my mind, defining masculine is a part of rape culture. Because it's telling me what my daughters should be like.
What did he say? What'd you say?
He said that's a part of rape culture, because basically you're saying that's what type of guy his daughter should like.
But PJ, like, I'm gonna be.
And it's also erasing the fact that women can approach men.
Yeah,
yes. See,
that ignores like, oh, you got to be a man and ask out. So if you say yes to a girl that says, oh, hey, I want to get with you.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
A woman approaching a man is still masculine.
Justin says that masculinity has a certain amount of confidence.
So all right, hold on.
A woman approaching a man is still masculine.
I'm so
confused.
Okay, so you're coming from a spiritual place. Trait. Okay. So I think I understand what Corey's
you don't understand that.
Okay, I got you, Corey. I got you.
I understand. Let me
explain it.
Okay, so go ahead, Mel.
It's coming. Okay. So what Corey's talking about is basically social dynamics coming from a spiritual perspective, because with every human being is a theory that there's both masculinity as well as femininity. So what he's saying is that if you're approaching someone that you are attracted to, then you're using more of your assertive self, aka your more masculine side, in order to get to know someone. I got you, man. I got you.
Okay.
Now the problem is that when that masculinity tips a little too far, because when you're approaching someone and you get rejected, there is a risk of rejection happening. And within that rejection, it can turn violent sometimes because people are a little off. And unfortunately, the overall rape culture kind of minimizes that, because it's dangerous for certain women out here in these streets. It's hard for a woman that is feminine, seeing, that's feminine appearing. They're walking, they're by themselves. It's after dark. They're running a risk where it could be somebody that's going to try to attack them. So,
I don't see it, man.
It's
I don't see women walking by themselves in the dark.
Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Okay, so I want to go ahead and let Tristan say something, and then we're going to go into a final commercial break and go into final thoughts.
I just wanted to. I wanted to.
All right.
About with JGJ's original point. The most perfect thing I could think of was the Aziz Ansari situation. For all of y'all who don't know what happened, Aziz Ansari went on a date with this girl. She went on a date with this girl. He thought everything was cool. She put a blog post out, or a post on, I think it was Bustle, and she went into detail on how the date went. From what I saw, from her own words, he did nothing wrong. They went on a date. They went back to his apartment. They made out. When she said she didn't want to do more, he stopped. They watched some Seinfeld. I think she said he tried to do something else one more time. She said she didn't want to do it. He stopped. They cuddled. He called her an Uber. She went home. The next day, she said, "Oh," and it was like, what did he do wrong? Because for me, there is a level of I want you to feel me out, right? Like in the sense of read the cues, read the vibes, see what's what. If I say no and you stop, there's no problem. And so if you're a man and you see what happened to Aziz Ansari, and shot him, he's having a stand-up special since then. his career has kind of come back with Master of None and so on and so forth. But I remember when it first happened,
the prime of Master of None,
right? But when it first happened, I remember Aziz Ansari didn't do like for a year and a half. Brother didn't stand up. Brother didn't he did nothing.
And
he
went underground.
Right, but that was one instance of where I felt like things went too far. That's all I was gonna say. That's it.
I think that's some of that gray area that it's just
right.
It's so hard to tell like who was like in the wrong, or if it was that really rape or sexual assault, or was that just a poorly negotiated interaction that was uncomfortable.
Right. Which happened?
Yeah, it's hard to say what really happened there.
And it was kind of creepy because he pulled the bull blouse point. So.
But I do think at some point we do have to start making a distinction between rape, sexual assault, and like she said, consensual experiences that don't go the way that we want them to, or don't go that aren't positive. Like I think we probably all have a story of where you met up with somebody and things just didn't go well. They just didn't click, whatever. But that's a far cry from someone forcibly making you do something, or someone purposely ignoring your wishes.
Tippy, what you say? Hold on, go back to the Tippy comment.
We're going to mention this one last comment, and then we're going to go into commercial break. So Tippy, Tippy says, I enjoy being approached by men. I enjoy being respectfully complimented by confident, assertive men. Men are quite hesitant to be confident and assertive nowadays. I mean...
Hey, JGJ, if you still online, you see that? You never know what woman wants you to come talk to you.
Okay. I mean,
I still like her. Just say, at least say, "Hey, this is my name. Hey, I'm motherfucking JGJ." Excuse my language. All right.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with approaching someone respectfully and introduce yourself. But when that person says they're not interested,
it's safe also to assess what they're doing. Like if I'm at an ATM and you're trying to hit on me, which has happened,
right?
I'm literally dealing with my money. You know.
Look, if I'm walking in the grocery store with my headphones on, I'm like, don't bother me. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go to.
Hey, Rakia, you know I'm still Durier's brother. You know where he gets his sense of humor from, right?
I get it totally.
You know where he gets his sense of humor from, right?
I can see it now. All right, so what we're gonna do? We're gonna go to a quick commercial break, and then we are going to do final thoughts, and we'll go from there. All right,
we don't have to. That's why I didn't get to watch the movie, because I went to watch it today, and they took it off HBO Max.
Right.
What is that about?
It's crazy because you know what's funny? The universe is teasing me because I got HBO Max specifically to watch Wonder Woman 84. Specifically to watch Wonder Woman 84. And then when I finally sat down to watch it, it wasn't on HBO Max. So today when I go to see whether Mortal Kombat is on there, Mortal Kombat is not there, but guess what's now back on HBO?
I was about to say, because it's on there.
Now Wonder Woman 84. So the universe is like...
All right, that was a commercial from our sister podcast, Geeking Out, that airs every other Monday at 8 p.m. And so our next episode is this upcoming Monday, and we are talking about the Lego movies. And so if you are one of those Lego fans, and it's okay if you are,
awesome.
This is your safe space. If you love Lego Batman, join us on Monday for Geeking Out. All right, so now we're going to go into our final thoughts. This is a chance for our panelists to give their final thoughts on the main topic or anything we've discussed in current events, and just to kind of give their final word before we end the show. So let's just go in order and go with Tristan. What are your final thoughts, sir?
Girl, I was not ready. I was texting, and man, I'm not gonna even lie to y'all straight up. Okay. Final thoughts. I think that I think we as people should always be cognizant of how we deal with people in a sexual way, what we watch, what we listen to, how that affects how we view things. And, consensual sex is awesome. Yeah, that's all. Keeping it short and sweet tonight.
All right. Thank you, Tristan. All right.
It is awesome.
Okay, so actually, I got to do the right way. So I'm going to have to skip over Mo and go to PJ. I'm sorry. Because
now I'm curious what the right way is. I didn't realize that there was a way to do any of this. People up front, put them up first, get them out of the way.
It's basically tradition that if Mo's on here, Mo's got to go second to last.
Yeah. All right. So, I've enjoyed this conversation, and I mentioned it a couple times. I'm a father of two young women, 18 and soon to be 15. So this is, it was brought up before about, do we talk to our kids or how do we talk to our kids? And Hannah and our rule has always been if they're old enough to ask a question, they deserve an answer within the language that they were able to understand. Where do babies come from? Not the stork, not some magical evening that mom and dad, we censored ourselves based on the language that they could understand. So rape culture, right? Some of the behaviors that we'll see in a culture that's full of that is victim blaming, slut shaming, sexual objectification, trivializing rape, denial of widespread rape, and even refusing to believe like the harm that sexual abuse can cause. And some of the things we've talked about tonight have all touched on these points. Sexual objectification. We talked about referring to women as cars or cars as women. And if we believe, I've heard this said too, is like, racism is built on the back of the very strong shoulders of patriarchy, right? And if we believe sexism also exists, how can we not believe that rape culture exists if we still see racism actively being practiced today?
Thank you, PJ. You can. Oh, I'm sorry. So first, for Tristan, you can find Tristan on Instagram at Tristan Daniels.
Follow me.
Yes. For PJ, you can find his blog at thepjvong.blogspot.com. You can find his Twitter at thepjvong, so that's VONG. Thank you, PJ, for joining us. All right, so we're gonna go to Ruth. Your final thoughts.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on. This was a good discussion. I would say. Rape culture to me seems like a culture where there's a lot of double standards regarding sex. Sex education is highly inconsistent, and often there's a lot of situations where people in power can abuse that power to rape others, rape or sexually assault people. I think a good way to counteract it is to have generally have better education regarding sex, better education regarding consent, and maybe promoting a value of at least getting to know the person you're going to sleep with for both men and women, and also understanding the power dynamics that come in from men and their sometimes situation in society, but also taking into account situations where women can be in power, such as teachers and other situations. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ruth. All right. So next we have Megan.
Reiterating a lot of what everyone said, but also with rape culture, we have to remember victims are harmed, but also everyone's harmed by it, because if we aren't educated, if we aren't proactive in helping people not be abused, not be hurt, don't add shame to it. If we don't remember those things when we consider that we are all people, it's something we need to squash out. We need to squash out rape culture. It needs to not be. We need to not allow gross comments at the office or wherever you're at, things like that. You need to stand up for people. You need to not add shame to it. You need to start young, when your children are very young, talking about these things in an age-appropriate way. Like PJ said, with language they understand. And yeah, it definitely harms everyone and hurts everyone.
All right, so thank you, Megan. So you can find Megan on Instagram at ChristmasFish, and you can also find her her blog, the festiveandfrugal.com.
Yes, festiveandfrugal.com.
Yes, awesome. All right, so we have Mr. Corey. What are your final thoughts, sir?
Basically, my final thoughts of the whole situation is ultimately, I look at things from a violent perspective, unfortunately, but America is violent culture, rape culture. That's pretty much what tops the box office, if that makes any sense. So I think the issue is bigger than just saying what's right and wrong. What if we was bred into something that we didn't even realize? So, rape, violent culture, drug culture, that's an American culture to me. So it's just, what it is. So that's my thoughts on that.
All right. Thank you, Corey, for joining us tonight. All right. And last but not least, Mo.
Yeah. Okay. So let me read a little bit more on this article because I want to make sure I get it right.
Get it right. Take your time, Queen. Take your time,
right.
Pastor.
So before you go, go ahead.
Okay.
No, because I wanted to go ahead and do your thing. So, like, Mo, you can find on IG at Mo Smith Pro. And also Cash App, $ Mo Smith Pro. It's always nice to drop a couple of dollars into someone's Cash App.
I mean, because, I'm trying
no
to
amount's too big, no amount is too small.
Right. Okay? Whatever you could give, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So let me just read this basically from this Vox article from 2014. Basically talking about the result of rape culture. Certain opportunities are left unavailable to women, and still others are restricted by expensive safety precautions, such as not traveling for professional networking unless you can afford your own hotel room. That amounts essentially to a tax that is levied exclusively on women. Over time, the cost of that tax adds up to opportunities lost and progress not achieved. When women give up social and economic opportunities in order to stay safe, that affects their progress overall, which turns society's progress as well. So basically, we all know that rape culture is rooted in patriarchy and all the good stuff. We've already talked about that. We talked a little bit about the professional setting and how that affects it. I expounded a little bit on that as well. But I think the main thing that we, really didn't get a chance to talk about, which I would love to kind of have a part 2 about, is more of the solutions, is more of the communication, basically on the now power dynamics, because women are no longer in a place of being subservient to men. There was a time, like up until the 70s, where women weren't allowed to have their own checking account. That's no longer the case because we got women that are CEOs of Fortune 50 companies. Top 50 companies in this country. So since we have this power shift, is that this paradigm shift, the way that we talk to women also has to change, because as Tupac said in his song "Was Your Mama," he said, "We got our name from our women, got our game from our women, and now we are basically all hating our women." Like, that's got to change. You know what I'm saying? It's got to change.
Hold on, hold on. All right, go ahead.
You don't get with final thoughts. You basically just got to take it. But ultimately, a man, you still are a man. Being I love this one woman on TikTok. Her TikTok is her perspective. She basically says that feminism is not to is basically benefits men as well, because it teaches men in order to respect women as an equal, as opposed to being someone subservient unto you, because that's where a lot of the powers lie, is that you're thinking this woman is a subordinate to you. Because women, and I'm gonna get in trouble with this, please forgive me, the right woman will submit under to their partner, but it has to be a level of trust associated with it. There has to be a level of communication that is with that. So basically, you can't call in a room weak-minded and expect someone to be subservient unto you. That's just not how this world works anymore. We're in a society that's not gonna fly. So you're gonna have to step your game up. You're gonna have to do for self. Meaning that you gotta have your own job, you gotta have your own car. Not saying that you have to have everything together, but you have to be in a place of being confident within yourself that you're not giving this energy of, I don't see you as an equal, so I'm not, But that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother spiritual thing.
That's a whole nother conversation.
I got on a tangent. I apologize. It's been a long night. I just had to get that out there. But look, I'm gonna start my classes with men and masculine identifying that are looking for their mate and how to talk to them. The prices will be posted on Twitter. Just check it, and also you can inbox me on my Facebook.
Lord of mercy.
I can show you the game, okay? I can show you the game. But ultimately, I make jovial comments. But ultimately, you do have to respect women as equal. Also, and I say women, I mean also trans women, because trans women are women as well.
All right, thank you.
Period. Right. So there has to be that level of respect, and racial culture affects that. And I'm out. All right, I'm done.
All right, so thanks, Mo. Like I said, you can find Mo on Instagram at MoSmithPro, and you can also find him on Twitter, MoSmithPro. That's how you find Mo. And make sure you also send something to her Cash App at $ MoSmithPro. Just saying. All right. So my final thoughts.
Also, No Clue is coming soon. I'm sorry. Yes. My bad. No Clue Podcast is coming soon. June 30th. Make sure you check it out. Hit up the Facebook group. Get into the conversation. I know I apologize, Nelly Million, but I'm just saying we got it coming for you.
That's a whole nother thing, Mo.
I know.
All right.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I was going to get in trouble if I didn't say it, though.
All right. So my final thoughts. I think that we need to understand that rape culture, yes, it does highly affect women because of just this history and the statistics, but it does affect everyone involved, and it includes how we raise our children, how we view things in society. But we do. It takes a lot of education and unraveling how our thoughts have been formed throughout society to get better with this. All right, so you can. Oh, before I talk about my thing, where is it? Aha, yes, National Sexual Assault Hotline. I want to bring this back up again. If you know someone or if you've been in a sexual assault situation, please call 800-656-HOPE, which is also 4673. All right, so I want you to be able to find me on Instagram, Rickey, RICKEY _Z, and you can find me on Twitter at _Rickey Z. So remember, there's an EY in there. It's not just a Y, EY. And find me on all the things. You'll see me on Talk It Out. You'll see me on Geeking Out. And you might not see me on No Clue, but I'm there. Don't worry. But yes, thank you so much for joining Talk It Out. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Share the YouTube channel. Share it on Facebook. If you talk about us on Twitter, make sure you tag us. You can find us at Whoa Nelly. At Whoa Nelly on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. We're everywhere. You might even see clips of us on TikTok. We're around. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I really appreciate our panel for being here tonight. This is not an easy conversation to have, but I think this was a really great one that we did. So, Talk It Out is a place where people of opposing views can get together and have a healthy and productive dialogue in a respectful way. Keeping in mind that it's not always about proving who's right and who's wrong. Sometimes it's simply about listening and being heard. So thank you guys so much and have a good evening. Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you.